Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Startup Growth Podcast. We have a really exciting episode for you today. My name's David. I am the founder and CEO at Fondo. And today we have a special guest, Tade Oyerinde, the founder and chancellor of Campus.edu. Campus is an online 2-year college that helps over 2,000 students get their associate's degree. They are crushing it right now. They just raised a big round. We're going to learn a ton from Tade. He started building products for college students way back in 2012, grew his first startup to over 100,000 users, had to pivot, ended up winding that down, then grew another startup in the college space to over 300,000 users and several million in ARR. He saw the writing on the wall after COVID and decided he needed to leave that all behind. So we're going to talk about how he made that decision and pivoted to Campus.edu, which today is growing several $1 million a year, thousands of students, and raised over $100 million in venture capital. We're going to learn a ton today. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. And speaking of enjoying this episode, I have to share a little bit about my startup, Fondo. Fondo is the all-in-one accounting platform for startups. We do bookkeeping, taxes, and tax credits for over 1,000 startups like Campus, like PostHog, and other companies. We'd love to support your company and handle these upcoming deadlines for you. And without further ado, please enjoy this episode with Tade Oyerinde, founder and chancellor at Campus. All right, Tade, thank you so much for being here. Would love to just kick this off and would love to hear the Tade origin story. Tell us about where you started, Tade.
Yeah, I mean, I can go all the way back. Born and raised in Atlanta.
Let's go back.
To two Nigerian immigrant parents who came here for college and stayed here. I had my twin brother and my sister, and me here. I was homeschooled until high school, and then went to study in the UK. I studied aerospace engineering, and that's where I started my first company with my my flatmate from Leeds and my twin brother who was studying at Oxford at the time. We created. Do you remember Chat Roulette?
Yes.
Yeah. So we basically, I mean, it's kind of embarrassing to say, but we were watching like The Social Network in like 2012, the movie.
Of course.
And then literally we're just like kind of drinking whiskey with the boys after. And we're like, man, like Zuck just took like Friendster and then put a .edu bridge around it, like a sort of moat around it. Like, what if we did that for Chat Roulette? We called it UniRoulette. And then we built it over Easter holiday. In the UK, you get like spring breaks like a month. They call it Easter holiday. And so we sort of recorded it, sort of built it over Easter holiday, UniRoulette, launched it, and it went viral.
Wow.
Ended up dropping out of college, moving to London, opened an office, raised $500,000, which was a massive seed round in 2012. That's kind of how I originally got into startup.
Wow. So you went from like dorm room virality to like real startup on your first shot. That's pretty insane. What was that like? I mean, that's product market fit, like right out the gate. What was that like when it started to work?
Yeah, so it was like hype. It was sort of like product hype fit. Like UniRoulette was exactly the kind of idea that like it's just like a viral idea. Like everyone wants to try it. It's like wait, I can just go on this website and meet random like college kids from other colleges, like guys at Oxford wanted to meet girls at Leeds, and like just it's like it's like everybody kind of wants to like meet and like flirt and like figure out how to meet other people. But the problem was is sort of there was very little retention. In hindsight, like I actually understand the space now. It's an impossible liquidity problem, right? You need enough people online at the same time. So it's not like with a normal social network like Facebook, where okay, if David Phillips creates an account, then I can like come online later and like see all the content that you created. No. We need people online at the same time, and then you have to hit next, and then there needs to be an interesting person who's ready to talk to you instantly. Like, so you need massive liquidity. So it's almost impossible to sustain unless you're in this like viral hype growth. I actually saw this happen with Clubhouse. I probably could have saved Andreessen a bunch of money just telling them it's like synchronous social is almost impossible because of liquidity crunch. But yeah, it was like a really great learning experience. It basically sort of like grew about 100,000 users in our first few months.
Wow.
I don't think anything had ever grown that quickly in the UK at the time. And then moved to London, opened an office, and then like within a few months, all of the growth started to slow. Spent the next 2 years trying to recapture the magic, but never really could. It was a fad.
Wow, that's really interesting. And then, did you pivot that company, or did you end up starting a completely new company after that?
Pivoted a bunch after that. Basically, ended up pivoting our way into being like a consulting firm. At the time, like this 2013, mobile apps were still relatively new. Most universities didn't have mobile apps, and they all thought that they needed them. And so, what we actually did that actually sort of got a little bit of traction was we would just go around to like all these schools, many of whom had tried to ban us, and would say, "Hey, you probably need a mobile app. We know how to build iOS and Android. We'll develop an app for you." And I moved to Silicon Valley, and decided to sort of do that there. Then my brother got bored, went back to finish at Oxford, and then my buddy Patrick got sort of bored and went to work at one of our friends' companies that was taking off. And then I eventually shut it down, and started my next company, CampusWire.
Wow, very cool. Okay, so you're at university. You and your flatmate and your brother are like, let's watch The Social Network, and then you're inspired by just college apps going viral by like capitalizing on that university network. You build chatroulette.edu. You called it udo.edu. Is that what it was?
UniRoulette, like uni for university. UniRoulette.
UniRoulette. Yeah. Okay, so you build UniRoulette. You grow to over 100,000 users. You've gone viral. You raise money. You've got this big office. You start building a team, and you just learn. You learn all this shit about building a chat marketplace, which sounds really difficult. And so then you pivot, you start selling apps to universities. Is that right? So you're building apps for Oxford at different universities to onboard their student body. Is that right?
Not really onboarding. It's like the most sort of basic things. It's like, oh, let's see what food is in the dining hall, or like let's see what events are happening on campus. Or we tried to make it a little bit social. Like there was like basically like a news feed for the campus for like announcements and things like that. Clubs and organizations could get onboarded and then like invite their members. That was sort of our viral growth loop. Yeah, just like really basic sort of social features.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then your co-founders are kind of like, okay, they decide to go back to school. They go join another startup. So you're like, shit. So you decide to start a new company at this point.
Yep.
And so where did the idea for, and you're in Silicon Valley now. So how did you come up with this new idea for CampusWire?
Yeah. So I kind of always had it. So I was homeschooled growing up. And when you're homeschooled in the 90s, you spend a lot of time sort of learning online. And most of it is asynchronous. It's kind of like you're just watching pre-recorded videos or doing asynchronous lessons. And of course, like when you're a kid, that's fine. It's fun. You're basically playing like educational computer games when you're really young. And then you hit puberty and you're like, well, I want to meet girls. I want to make friends. I want to like meet people. And be like, man, this is kind of not satisfying my social curiosities. And I had this idea of like, wait, what would it look like if we had like Skype? I call it a Skype classroom. Like, so like all these other homeschoolers around the world could all, in theory, we could all learn together in like synchronous online learning environment. That was my sort of idea. Never really thought about it too much. And then if you remember, like in 2011, 2012, the MOOCs came out and Coursera, edX were going crazy. And I thought, man, like nobody's really going to be successful in these, and the graduation rates aren't going to be high because most people do need a social online learning environment. And then you saw Slack taking off in the workplace, Discord taking off for gamers. And so my idea for CampusWire was like, okay, it's time to build Discord or Slack for online learning, right? Like you just need a platform that is dedicated to the like idiosyncrasies of a learning environment and the use cases that are critical for online learning to be good. And so nobody decided to build it, so I decided to start it. And, we called it CampusWire.
Wow, awesome. And so as you're building this, investors were excited about this, right? You had some pretty good traction with investors early on.
Yeah, we were able to meet. I got sort of lucky. I met folks, Roy Bahat and Karen Klein at Bloomberg Ventures. Roy's a part-time professor at Berkeley. So immediately in the pitch, he was like, yeah, I would use this. Sure, we'll invest. And then Charles Hudson from Precursor, and a sort of handful of angels. Doug Scott was actually my first investor in UniRoulette, came back and backed us again because he just thought we were like geniuses, and he thought I was like, like it was like never going to quit, which he was right about. And so at least the never quitting part. I don't know about the genius part. and so yeah, so kind of like I think we raised 600K in our first round, and just wrote code for a few years. My buddy, who actually Robbie, actually
Hmm.
helped as our first back end engineer, and then I sort of met this
Shout out
guy
Robbie.
Tim. Yeah, shout out to Robbie. And then Tim was our sort of full stack engineer, and then I did a bunch of front end work, and then this guy Wakas did front end with me. So like, yeah, we just built code for 2 years and then launched. The unique thing was like I learned how difficult enterprise sales was when trying to sell like apps to universities. So I didn't try and sell it as an enterprise product to the universities. I went directly to professors. And so the idea was if you get professors to like say, hey, I'll use this, then they would require their students to pay for it like a textbook, right? And so that was the business model, which allowed us to grow really quickly. Actually, it would have taken way too much time to grow if we tried to do the enterprise sales. The sales cycles were just way too long, and there's way too much
Oh,
buy-in that's required.
interesting. And so did you just outbound these teachers or these professors, or how did you get them into the CampusWire ecosystem?
I figured out a way to scrape a list of every professor's email in America.
I love that.
Yeah. It was just like one of those. So if you're sort of up late at night, like 3 a.m., and you're just like, sort of zombie brain clicking around, trying to figure out a growth strategy, and then you just like, so it was like one of our competitors had kind of already figured this out. They weren't building the exact same tool. It was kind of like a forum. It wasn't like
Yeah.
synchronous for online learning, and they'd kind of figured it out. And they'd already like scraped a lot of this data, and I was like, oh wow! And I inspected the JSON payload coming in, and then sort of realized
Wow.
the gold mine was there. And so yeah, that was we just like cold emailed sort of like about a million professors. There's about a million to a million and a quarter
Wow.
million professors in the country, and we just cold email that list every few months, and then you get like some meaningful percentage to like sign up for a demo. I would fly around the country, demo in person, and then get some percentage of them to actually adopt it, and then some percentage of them to upgrade to the pro version, and then get their students to pay. So it was like a business model. It actually worked fine. Um, and then like COVID hit, and then like like again that exponential curve growth
Wow.
we kind of hit. But but again, like because I'd already seen an exponential earlier in my journey, I didn't fall for it. And this it was a head fake again, second head fake. Like it was because like it's COVID, and so like I remember UCLA, University of Illinois, literally at the president level, like the chancellor or president of the universities are like in my emails, like begging to give us millions of dollars to adopt and standardize our software across the entire campus. And I'm just like,
Wow.
is this gonna last? Because I'm paranoid at this point. I'm like, I've seen this before.
Yeah.
Like, is this gonna last? And I'm like, no, it's not gonna last because UCLA it's yes, it's education, but it's a dating app, right? It's like it's a social networking app. It's like it's a country club for the upper middle class. Like you want it to be in person. And so when this pandemic is over, eventually everyone's going to go back to in person, and they're not going to like give me millions of dollars every year for the software that no one's going to be using anymore, or at least 90% of the
Wow.
usage would have gone away. And so I didn't fall for the head fake this time.
Wow. So what did you do? What did you do in that situation?
Yeah, and so I noticed something, a couple things that were really interesting. The first is, when I'd fly around the country and I'd meet these professors, I actually, funny enough, at UCLA, I met this professor who was living out of his office. I literally like he had an air mattress next to his desk. And I'm like demoing our software, and I'm like, "Yo, what's what's going on?" And he's like, "Oh, like, I can't afford to live anywhere near Westwood. I'm an adjunct professor. I make like 52 grand a year." I'm like, "What's an adjunct mean?" He's like, "Oh, we're basically like, I mean, it's basically like the Uber drivers of higher education. Like, they're not ever going to get tenure. They're never eligible for even apply for tenure. They're kind of like this, like sort of just like ancillary teaching faculty that they sort of have like 3 month or 6 month or maximum like a year contract. And yeah, they're paid very little. About a third of them teach at two or more schools concurrently just to earn enough to live. And so the guy's like, yeah, I live in my office like Monday through Friday, drive out 5 hours away where I live for the weekend, and then come back up, to see my office Monday through Friday again every week. And I was just like shocked because he couldn't afford to live anywhere near Westwood. And so I noticed that. And then like simultaneously, I noticed like basically community college students just didn't use us at the same retention rate. Like they just didn't have the same retention rate as like 4 year university students. And we'd always kind of just like, okay, this is a question mark. We'll inspect that later. But we kind of knew to avoid wasting our time getting community college professors to use our software because we knew their students weren't going to retain, and then the professors would be annoyed that they made them pay for software that they didn't end up using. But we didn't actually inspect too closely why they weren't retaining at the same rate as four-year students. And then the third thing that happened, which was kind of like when I got really excited about, I think, a new opportunity, was funny enough, again, another UCLA professor hits up students, customer support, which I was running at the time because we were like six people. And he's like, hey, I'm now also, in addition to teaching at UCLA, teaching at Santa Monica College down the road. I have two CampusWire accounts. It's really annoying. Can you combine them? And I'm like, wait, a UCLA professor is teaching the same course at the local community college? UCLA is like 60 grand a year. Santa Monica College is like 6 grand a year. And they're getting the same professors. That's like a novel thing that I don't think most people are aware of. Why don't more people go to community college? And I sort of dug in, and basically it's like the quality, the perception of the quality, the completion rates are just so low. And so I thought, man, what if someone built a new kind of community college where all the classes were taught by this distributed network of these charismatic professors from these top 50 universities, but then you could also figure out how to get the graduation rates up. And so I got obsessed with that idea, and then we decided to pivot.
Wow, that's incredible. So at what scale was CampusWire at this point? Like how many students, how much revenue, where were you at this point?
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of hard to like. So I think on students, we were at like 300,000 students. In terms of revenue, we were
Wow.
we basically signed like several $1 million in ARR worth of contracts, but then we kind of made this decision to sort of like basically pause on collecting revenue to like invest in growth because Zoom and Microsoft Teams and Google Classroom just like started like competing in the market. So like that was the other piece. It was like pre-COVID,
Wow.
live online learning platforms were like an afterthought for universities. And then like in this moment, they became like core operational necessities for every university. And so what does that mean? It meant Microsoft and Google and Zoom like just like hired thousands of salespeople to just like attack this market. And it became so competitive that Microsoft and Google actually just made their products free. They're like, if you're already
Wow.
paying for Office 365 Campus Edition or Google Workspace Campus Edition, we'll let you use Google Classroom with the Google Meets or Hangouts, whatever it's called, with like 30 different names for it,
Yeah.
or Microsoft Teams for free. And so we actually like ended up like sort of kind of annulling a lot of our contracts, almost all of our contracts. We kept contracts with University of Illinois, maybe one other school, because they were so deeply embedded already. And basically just tried to compete. And again, I was like, man, this is a total red ocean overnight. I don't even think there's going to be
Wow.
real revenue in here long term.
And wow, so you're 4 years into CampusWire at this point. COVID hits, you see a huge spike, several million ARR, 300,000 students, and now you're deciding to sort of walk away from that whole business and start
Yep,
something brand new because you just had conviction that this industry is going to get eaten by the monopolies.
exactly right. Yeah. I always had this sort of paranoid perspective of like, is this real? Like, do you really love me? Like, it's like, is this, am I really going to be the Black Zuckerberg this time? Like, is this growth
Yeah.
going to last? Or is this like, one of these hype trains? And I think that's the cool thing of that really painful experience with UniRoulette. It was like bloody painful. Like I really thought, oh, we made it, like, to the moon. But like now, like having that lens of like skepticism, and whenever we see these like exponential growth curves, um, is actually the sort of most valuable, I think, perspective that I have, that allowed us to see the big
Wow.
opportunity with campus.
Wow. Okay. So you walk away from CampusWire. Did you have to? So you had this new vision for campus,
Yep.
and what happens from here? Do you raise a new round? Do you like sort of bootstrap it? Like what did you do to get to your first student enrolled?
Yeah, so it's a lot of brain damage, to be honest. Like, so the idea is like, okay, campus wire is growing exponentially, but I can see already it's going to be a red ocean. It's going to all the value is going to be competed away, and as you said, captured probably by the big monopolies. Um, and and um, and at the same time, I'm like really obsessed with this novel problem of like, how is it possible that these amazing professors are earning so little? Funny enough, that was where I really got obsessed. It wasn't like, oh, how can we help students at first? It was like, I just was literally, I just could not believe that UCLA and Princeton and NYU faculty were earning so little. And so the idea was like, okay, how can we create supplemental income opportunities for these amazing teachers? And then like how can we improve graduation rates of the community colleges? And so like, okay, first is like, can we start a new community college? And it's like, no, basically it's impossible. There's there hasn't been there's only been one new community college accredited since I was born. It's really, really difficult. It takes like probably a decade plus to get accreditation, and no one's really gone through the process. It's just too hard. And then the second question is like, okay, are there people who can advise me on how to make this vision real and implement it within an existing community college? And I was super fortunate. One of our investors, Matt Greenfield from Rethink Education, had connected me with a guy called Art Levine, who was the former president of the Graduate School of Education at Columbia, who connected me with a guy called Ralph Wolff, who was the former president of WASC, one of the six accreditors in the country, accreditor of Stanford,
Wow.
Berkeley, UCLA, all the schools in California and Hawaii. And we just like hung out, and he loved my vision. He's like, dude, I'm gonna help you do this. Here's a path. Like, there are a couple colleges that you can actually buy that are already mission aligned with your vision. Like, they are already like trying to do what you're trying to do, just with a way worse, way less compelling strategy. If you can convince one of them to sell to you, you can actually implement your strategy at that mission aligned institution and go to the moon. And so that was the name of the game.
Wow.
Once he told me it was possible and explained the path, I was obsessed and went all in.
Wow. And so did you have to raise money to, so the next thing you did was actually acquire a community college, and you raised money to do that. You ran you were sort of unrelenting. I mean, that's not easy to buy a university, and I know there's a lot of a lot of regulation and things like that. So I'm sure that was not easy. I'm sure we could have a whole podcast about that next time.
Oh yeah.
But you raised money, you buy a you bought a college. Did you have to do that before you even got your first student?
Oh yeah. I mean, it was basically impossible. The creditors didn't really understand the concept of a startup buying a college, so you have to like explain it to them. You have to like get really deep and intimate with them, build trust. You have to build a board of trustees. Like, they're not just going to let some random kid who's a college dropout just like take over one of these institutions. Like, you actually have to build a board of trustees. I don't like, again, like recruit a dozen former community college presidents of the top schools: Miami-Dade, LaGuardia College, Dallas College, like the top
Wow.
3 community colleges in the country, to be my board of trustees and to govern the institution. We had to really make sure that our mission was consistent with the existing mission of the institution. There's like a lot that we had to do, and so it took about 3 years.
Wow.
I'm like super grateful to our investors and our board, which is Jason, the founder of Discord, who had joined our board by this time, and Karen from Bloomberg, and Matt, and they basically like supported me the whole way through. They were just like, hey, if like, yes, like if you believe this is like the big opportunity, we're going to back you. And then when it came to actually buy the college, I mean, these things cost tens of millions of dollars. And the craziest thing is you have to have the money to do the deal before the regulators will even review the application for the transaction for regulatory approval. And
Wow.
you can't have like an IOU. If we don't get approval, I'll give you the money back. They don't allow it. So, luckily I met Sam Altman before he launched ChatGPT, and turns out he actually spent some time at a community college before Stanford, and was just like, dude, I've been looking for this vision for a long time. I think the American dream is dying. We've got to figure out how to get this thing back on track. I want to help you. And so we raised the money to buy the college, and the rest is history.
Wow. That's amazing. That's huge. So you buy the college, and Tade, I know we're at 106. Let's just do a quick time check.
I can
Um,
go for another 10, 15.
okay, perfect. Thank you. Awesome. So, okay, wow. So now you're a college. Now you're an accredited college. You're campus.edu.
Yep.
How do you get your first student? Like, did you have how did you think about that? How do you I mean, it's like a whole startup just to buy a college. And then like, now how do you like run the college and get students? Like, what was that process like?
Unbelievably hard. You know this from starting your boot camp hack
Yep.
right. So like I think it's like, I mean, for us, the big thing was the economics. Like, I didn't want to even go down this road unless we figured out a way to finance the education without debt. And so that was the key. Like, I think the boot camps thought the ISA was going to be this transformative mechanism, but it turns out it was basically just another form of debt. And so like my view was, okay, there are these federal grants, specifically the Pell Grant, that most community college students, almost 80% of them are eligible for. It's basically $11,000 a year. It's not a loan; you don't have to pay it back. So how can we, and is it possible for us to actually sort of like offer our program at below the threshold of Pell Grant, below $11,000 a year for 2-year degrees? Um, and if that was possible, then I knew I was going to spend the rest of my like 20s, 30s, 40s, like my life doing this. And so kind of opened up a spreadsheet, did a bunch of math, figured out, okay, if you can actually get sort of the funny beauty about this sort of the whole business is if you improve your retention rates, you improve your graduation rates, and you improve your gross margins, right? Because the big problem with community colleges, most of our students drop out of the first 3 months. And so you actually don't get enough revenue, and so your gross margins are too low and your outcomes are too bad. And so actually improving outcomes drove up the gross margins, which actually made the
Wow.
economics more favorable. And so that was a big piece. It was like, okay, let's go all in on improving the retention rates and the graduation rates, getting the great outcomes, being number one in the country for outcomes. And then that will actually allow us to lower our tuition rate so that even if our CAC is not exactly free or cheap, we can still finance it because the gross margins are so good. And so that's kind of what we did. We sort of put some ads out, TikTok, Instagram, Google, SEO, pretty much like sort of all the sort of standard user acquisition stuff. Okay, got our first 10 students. CAC was like 12 grand a kid. It was like never gonna work. It was insanely high. Actually, it was 15 grand our first cohort. But we were like, fine, we know we can probably improve that over time. Let's see if we can serve them, get them to graduate at the right rate. And then our first cohort graduated at almost double the national average. Right, it was like almost 50%. It was in the high 40s. It's like, okay, this is real. Now it's like, okay, can we get the CAC down? Then we got the CAC down 90%. Okay, then it's like, okay, can we actually scale up the cohort sizes so that your basically average class size, your student to teacher ratio is large enough that you can actually make money and pay the professors well. And so the campus model is live online classes, so it's not pre-recorded, taught by the best professors from the top 50 schools in the country. We pay the professors double the national average wage, so 8,000 per class instead of 4,000 per class. And then we recruit students from all over the country, and they take live online classes for 2 years, and they pay their tuition using a Pell Grant. So 86% of our students pay nothing out of pocket. Not a single one of them has loans because they either pay with a Pell Grant or they have some payment plan. And then after 2 years, we help them transfer into a 4-year school to complete their degree. We have kids who've been accepted for transfer into NYU, Penn State, Temple, like great universities. UC San Diego, we just had a student into, or they go and start working right away after they graduate. So that's like the vision, and I think it's ready to scale. It's a great model. That's
That's
I'm gonna spend the rest of
incredible.
my 30s doing.
That's incredible. So incredible. I think what you're doing is such a massive impact on everybody. I went to community college too, so I love it. And
I
so
didn't realize that.
yeah. So did you like build CampusWire for campus? Like, did you build your own software? Do you use existing stuff? Like, how did you implement the vision with software?
So that's the key. Like you can't operationalize this stuff with stitching together like all the different pieces. Like a lot of people have tried Lambda School, Slack plus Zoom plus Gmail webhooks with no, it's way too messy and disjointed of an experience. The data syncing isn't happening right. You can't get the real time information. So no, we built all of our operating systems from the ground up, except for our CRM, which the admissions team uses, which we do use Salesforce for, but we'll be ripping that out, and hopefully by the end of this year. Yeah, that was kind of the whole view. Was like you actually need to build really great state of the art software to manage all of these processes, so that you can actually have a great experience for students.
I mean, that's incredible. I mean, this is a startup on hard mode. I mean, it's like every step of the way is like a startup, and keeping that all together. I mean, so how big is your team? How have you been implementing this?
Yeah, so the team's pretty large because we've kind of gone all in on human interaction. Like that's like my big sort of contrarian bet. Is like in a world where AI is increasingly a sort of a larger part of our lives. I think for this population of students, our students are typically middle to lower middle income. human connection is kind of key. It's like full circle back to like my homeschool vision. It's like classmates, professors, TAs, coaches, admissions counselors, all real humans, and you connect with them and you build real relationships with them when you're at campus. And so we actually, for every 50 students we enroll, we hire a human, right? Whether it's a success coach or an admissions counselor or an outcomes engineer,
Wow.
this person who's going to help you transfer or get a job, right? And so we have a lot of people. We're about 240 people today.
Wow. Wow. So 240 people, 2,000 students today at campus. And so your first cohort, 10 students, $15,000 CAC per student. You had to train them for 2 years to measure the outcomes before you went and did a new cohort. Is that right? So you had 10 customers for the first year, or how does that work?
Oh no, thank God we're on the quarter system like Stanford or UCLA. So we onboard a new cohort of students every quarter, every 3 months.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so,
Yeah, like the investors were willing to like give it, like they give us so much like support. Like, we're gonna fund you. You're not gonna have any revenue for 2 years because you're just gonna buy a college and all that stuff. We're gonna go through this like sort of like unknown, accreditation process. But they're like, you gotta get real data. Like we're not gonna like have one cohort of students a year.
yeah. Wow. So, okay. So one cohort per quarter. How did you look at CAC? You said it was 15,000 per student the first time around. What were the levers that helped improve that?
Yeah, I mean, some of it was just like 0 to 1 stuff, like not being stupid, like just like actually actually sending SMS follow ups to everyone who starts an application but doesn't finish it, like just like literally just like don't be stupid stuff, and then that probably got us like down to like 8K or 9K CAC, and then and then it's like speed to lead, so you've got to call these students, you got to call them, like it's not like this is like what we learned, and it's sort of obvious in hindsight is that where you go to college is like probably after who you marry or whether or not to have kids, probably like the biggest decision you're going to make in your life. Like it's like one of these like life trajectory altering decisions, and so people need a consultative approach. They need someone being like, hey, let me help you decide what you're going to study, like what is your purpose, like what did God or
Totally.
Gen Z says the universe put you on this planet to go do, like what is your passion, your interest, and your innate ability, like how do we help you identify those things. And so we basically have an admissions team that's actually actively trying to convert the leads, and that kind of got us a lot of the rest of the way.
And unlocking the Pell Grant, is that something that you also just like removed friction from for your students, or do you apply on their behalf, or how does that?
It's still the biggest, again, like sort of stupid thing that we're doing is like we haven't made that easier. Like right now we're like, here's a link to the federal government's website, which hasn't been updated since 1979. Like it's like,
Right.
it's like go fill out this form that's like more complicated than doing your taxes, and confusing for a lot of these students who are first generation and never gone to college. Their parents didn't go to college, and so we need to make that a lot easier. Like I still think there's probably another 30% to 40% reduction in CAC that we can accomplish just by doing things, but there's just so many things to do. It's hard mode the whole way through. It's been
hard mode the whole way through. And so you've raised money along the way. And so you've recently closed a big round. So now you've raised over $100 million. And which inflection point was the most powerful on this past round?
Yeah. So like basically the first round was like, after we pivoted, was like, let's get Sam Altman and Jason Citron excited, and a couple of the founders fund put in a little bit of money as well, excited about this vision, no debt, let's build the future workforce of America with no debt, right? Let's bring back the American dream. And then like, okay, you have to actually go find a college. There's only 6 that was mission and vision aligned that we could acquire to serve as the foundation. That was a big milestone. And then we found the college. Then we unlocked like another, like our Series A1, we called it, which is like, okay, have the money to actually consummate the deal and then go through the regulatory process. That took another 18 months. And then once that happened, it was like, okay, with the cash you have left, go get your first students and prove that anyone wants this. And then we did that. And then we raised like our Series AA. And then it was like, okay, go get to like 500 to 1,000 students, like, and demonstrate that you could actually like make the economics work, because the economics just don't work when you have 10 students in a cohort. You're paying the professor too much. We give every student a laptop. We pay their Wi-Fi. We have a lot of student support. So you actually need about 150 students minimum in a cohort before you can even get to 0% gross margins. And then, and then probably around like 400 students in a cohort if you want to get to like tech margins. And so we needed to demonstrate that. We finally demonstrated that last like probably May, and then went out to do the B, and then yeah, we did the Series B, and we're sort of so founders funded the A, and then General Catalyst led our Series B, and we were sort of super fortunate. Now we've raised over $100 million.
That's incredible, Tade. Well, huge congratulations to you on all the success you've had to date with Campus. You're changing the world.
Thanks,
you're
man.
changing lives, and it's awesome and incredible to see. And yeah, huge congrats on the recent round. Super excited to keep following your journey, Tade. And thanks for joining us.
Of course, man. Thanks. I'm happy to be here. Appreciate it. Appreciate the chance to catch up. It's good to catch up, man.
Good to catch up, man.